Hi, I'm Anna, and in this video I will try to give advice, insight and opinion on your life situations and questions that you've sent me. But why listen to me? I'm not an expert in anything. I'm just a human. I'm just a woman in her early 40s that has chosen quite an unconventional path in life, or that path has chosen me, and I've seen pretty a lot of turbulence. And I don't believe that there is a magic solution to all problems and questions. I don't believe that there is a one-size-fits-all approach. Life is complex, humans are complex, and I voice my opinion based on all that. This video is an invitation to listen, to empathize, to think, and to figure something out together. Maybe it's enough for you to continue watching. I asked you to fill out a Google form, and I've received so many stories and questions that I had to choose what to mention. So if you don't find your question in this video, please don't be upset. Don't take it too close to heart. It's just my human energy is limited, and I had to pick what situations to discuss in order to make the video informative, relatable, and cohesive. Also, there were some stories that were quite similar, and hence I just chose one story out of the group to represent its neighboring experiences the best. There are timestamps in the video, so you can choose what to watch and what to skip. The thing I struggle with the most is the fact that I'm in my 40s and I don't have children. I feel like I'm an outsider because of it, but sometimes I wonder if it's me not being able to fully accept this, or because of society and other people. I, similarly to you, can't call myself childless or child-free. Instead, somewhere in between, due to life circumstances and other complex factors. I also live in a different country, far away from my family, but I can't help but blame myself for not having children, telling myself I should have been strong enough to do it, although I've never been sure, and somehow feel less worthy and second class because of it. Most women, especially at the workplace, talk about their children a lot. It is of course natural, but also a bit tiresome for someone who cannot share their experiences fully, so this makes me feel uncomfortable and alone at times. Being a mother gives people strong purpose in life, and I feel like I'm still looking for that main purpose in my life, despite being in my 40s. I would like your advice on how would you go about resolving these feelings within yourself. How would you make conversations about it without oversharing? At the moment, I just don't talk about it at all, other than to my closest family. How would you stop yourself feeling less than others because of not having kids to look after and contributing to society and not being a mother? Finally, how would you go about finding your purpose in life? I resonate with this question and experience a lot, and the first thing that I want to say is that people don't have to be comfortable for you. This is the truth, however harsh it may sound, but on the other end, you also don't have to be comfortable for other people. You don't have to engage if you don't want to. But of course, I understand that this can be challenging at a workplace. On the last office job that I had, most women that I worked with had children, and 90% of our informal chats were about kids. And I would avoid talking about myself by all means, and hence I would always redirect conversations by asking about other women's kids. And I didn't do it in a hypocritical way. I was genuinely interested, and also it was just my personal maneuver. And as a lovely side effect, these conversations created lovely bonds that made the office work, dreadful office work, more bearable. But it's me. I don't want to overshare with people who are not my immediate family or close friends, or here on the channel, but it's a completely different thing. Human experience is complex, people are different, and many people find safety and comfort in believing that it is only their purpose, their insight, their experience that brightens up human existence, only theirs and no one else's. that they know the truth while nobody else does. So every time you're made feel that you are a lesser woman for not being a mother, remember that it's not about you, it's about them and their feeling of lessness. I find the parable about the blind man and an elephant very relevant when it comes to everything that is about which truth is the truest. If you haven't heard or read this parable, I will leave the link down below. It's very interesting and it's very relatable, trust me. Your own purpose will find you, but for that it might be good to stop clinging on an illusionary and ideal purpose that is not achievable for you at the moment or ever. It requires honesty and some kind of, personal self-brutality, but it's worth it. And whenever I'm told that I will never be able to understand and to fully feel many things in life because I am not a mother and I will never be one, I just don't respond anything to these people. There is no reason to justify your life to people who are sure that they figured everything out. I just let those people be. And it's crazy how many questions are asked without even a slight intention to hear the answer. I had a friend who was unapologetically child-free, but she was sick and tired of explaining her stance to people. So whenever she was asked why she didn't have kids and why she didn't any, she would tell people a tragic story that ended her chances of becoming a mother. And of course that story was not true. People felt sorry and shitty about bringing that up and never talked about that again. And I don't blame my friend for that manipulation because it was the only way to end such conversations. Your life is no one else's business but yours, and you have my support in this. There were quite a few other similar stories from women talking about their un-motherhood. Women were asking me about my opinion about whether they should freeze their eggs just in case, or whether they should go on looking for a partner who would accept life without kids. And my response to the first part is that if you have financial means, if you have physical health and you want it, go on and freeze your eggs. It's your body, it's your life, you decide and you give it the options that are accessible to you at the moment. If this decision will make you feel better, it will make you feel more liberated and hopeful, just do it. As for a partner, it's quite easy. If a person tells you that you can be together only on condition that you have kids, or if you made sure that you stay in good physical health and shape until the very end of your life, or if you followed a special diet, or if you, learned French to perfection, probably this person should be left behind. Yes, it's as simple as that. There was a very beautiful comment under the previous video on this channel. A friend said about the importance of loving a person as a human, not just as a romantic partner. And when you love someone like that, you don't have an Excel table with requirements at hand. I fall in love too easily. After every end of a relationship, there was a new one ahead. And like that, the last 7 years, I kind of have always dated someone. Finally, I want to break the cycle and be single and content, find out who I am without having a partner. How can I be fully myself again? What do I do if I fall in love? And when should I date some again? I don't know your personality, I don't know your full story, but the best advice I think that I can give you is don't prohibit yourself anything. Do not abandon a romance for the sake of abandoning it. Do not ban yourself from falling in love. Just be more attentive to yourself. What makes you enter into a new relationship? What makes you end it? How do you feel before? How do you feel after? What emotions do you usually run on as a person? Take your time to ponder over these, to learn yourself more, and maybe you will discover some hidden reasoning behind your choices and thus figure out who you are. You don't have to be in a relationship or be single. It's not a requirement. You can figure yourself out anywhere, in any state, in any circumstances. It just requires different amount of effort. Once I knew someone who viewed most people around as their potential partners. Their life was nothing but a series of romances, and of course it's neither good nor bad, there is no judgment here, but as I was quite close with that person, we were friends, good friends, but for a short period of time, I knew that the person was adrenaline thirsty all the time, and they thought that they were constantly missing a better variant. And hence no romance lasted long enough, only until the moment that the person met another person who they thought was better for them in this or that, I don't know, quality or something. Another person who I've known for my entire life and who I know pretty well cannot be single, just cannot, although they would never admit it. Whenever they are not with someone, they feel lost, broken, and unimportant. It is their personality, and they feel the most fulfilled and the happiest only when they are in a partnership. What I mean to say is that you don't need special circumstances to know yourself better. There is no ideal schedule of alternating relationships or being single. What matters is that you learn something new about yourself from every experience, and then you use this knowledge further on. And this is also true for those who seek relationships but cannot find any. One young woman sent her story and asked this: did you ever felt desperate to be in a relationship? Not because of society expectations, but deeper inside. How do you think a person can at least feel less desperate for such a thing? To feel more at peace with the reality that is out of one's hand? First, remember that you are never in full control of meeting a person, the right person. It can happen at any time, or it might not happen ever. And I know it's quite hard to go on living like this, saying that your deepest dream is not coming true. But what helped me in my situation, I was not seeking for a partner, but I had a dream, I had the deepest desire that was not realized in my life. I did my best to reduce the importance of the dream. It's very hard work, inner work, but it makes a difference. Once you stop perceiving only one part of your life as the most important part, and once you make an effort to balance things out, you will come to more peace with your own self and with your situation. And as a woman who is older than you, I want to tell you this. I've never met a single woman in my life who would regret not starting her first relationships early enough. Everyone who I ever talked about that among women wished that they could postpone their first relationships just to give it time. Also, I have pockets full of stories of people finding their love at very different age, or people who fully embraced and enjoyed their single life. You never know what turn your life can take, so just enjoy the ride and don't put too high expectations on your future relationship. It also helps to think of your future story not from the position of deficit, like what that person will bring into my life that I lack at the moment, that I desperately need. This kind of deficit approach is not good for anything in your life. It's better to approach this with curiosity and fullness. You have talked about being an HSP. I'm an autistic ADHD woman, and there are many similarities with people who identify as HSP and autism. I had no idea I was neurodivergent until I was 30, but reframing my life and myself with this understanding has made much sense. My diagnosis really changed my life. It isn't all positive. Sometimes I feel that I'm mourning who I could have been and despair that I do not have a curable condition. I'm just this way forever. I'm trying to accept myself, but life is so unkind to the autistic mind. I struggle with becoming overwhelmed and overstimulated, and it is made worse by the ever-increasing demands of my job. I want a slower, gentler life and to be able to focus on my creative pursuits, but it just isn't obtainable for me. When you had a regular job, how did you handle the stress being an HSP? Do you have any advice? Also, just in general, how are you kind to your sensitive self? I haven't undergone any diagnostics for neurodivergence, and that's why I unfortunately cannot give you any insight or understanding in regards to autism and ADHD, but I can and with high sensitivity. When I had regular jobs in the office and also at school, I was a teacher, I had a quite big toolbox of tactics and things that helped me stay together and not fall apart because of sensory and communicative overload. Whenever possible and whenever my bosses allowed me, I would adjust my working hours. For example, I preferred working from 7 a.m. to 4 a.m. so that I could avoid a lot of communication with my colleagues, and also avoid rush hours. Also, I would have some comforting objects on my desk, including my journal. I would always write occasional thoughts and phrases that kind of popped up in my mind while I was working. And that habit made me feel more connected to myself and reminded me of who I am and that I was me, regardless of the work that I was doing at the moment. Whenever possible, I would wear big headphones in order to distance myself at least a little bit from the open space overwhelm. And I had a set of working day rituals in order to break it into digestible pieces without going crazy. And I also always walked as much as I could to and back from work, even if it meant getting up 30 minutes earlier or even an hour earlier, my usual time. But again, it's my experience. For every sensitive person, this toolbox and set of tactics can be quite different. Being kind to your sensitive self means giving yourself permission to rest. This is the most important thing. Take quiet breaks, even if these quiet breaks means going to the restroom and just sitting there, or I don't know, doing wall push-ups. That's something that I would do. Breaks are so important, and you don't have to interact with other people during your breaks. Just make sure to isolate yourself. Also, I found a lot of comfort in making at least one friend at work. Warm human connections and care make everything more bearable. That person doesn't have to become your bestie, but who knows? Paradoxically, the more I live, the more I see that being kind, open, and vulnerable gives you enormous strength and connects you to the world in a gentle and caring way, opposed to the situations when you act from the position of resistance and defense. And again, it's my personal perspective, but I hope that it will help you in some way. The most difficult thing I have to deal in my life is to be an introvert manager who sees everyday signs of mental or emotional troubles in some people that can be my own chiefs or my colleagues. Every day I have to find within myself the strength and resources to maintain my own balance, to show the best version of myself. But it is so fake, and by nighttime and during weekends, the only thing I want is to hide and heal. Do you think it's wrong to feel hurt by people just only by being around them? Because of that, I don't chase friendship. My only friend is my husband, and he is so comprehensive about that. Answering your question, yes, you can feel hurt by people by just only being around them, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's called high emotional sensitivity or empathy, whatever you can call it. What can help is to draw a line between you and others. Separate yourself from others. This can sound weird, but it definitely helps. At least it helps me when I get too stressed and upset by people, and upset not only because I feel their emotions, but because I get disappointed and even averse to certain people and their behavior. When I was younger, I thought that I was a misanthrope, a person who dislikes humans very, very much. But then I realized that I actually love humans. I just needed to accept their otherness and let them own their stories instead of projecting them onto me. And I still get hurt, by ignorance, cruelty, laziness of minds and hearts, by judgment and, indifference. But I always draw a line between me and other people. They are not me. I am not them, and this is what matters. Embracing your own imperfections can also help in a very grounding and humbling way. I am sure that there are so many people who cannot stand me, who cannot stand the way that I look, the way that I think or speak, I don't know, anything, but it's fine. Just let people be and don't take them too seriously. You have a husband who is also your friend, and it's already a lot. It's not a bad thing to distance yourself from people who drain you. If this distancing cannot be done physically, just do it mentally. Every time you feel like you get involved, get caught up into the whirlwind of disbalance because of someone, just stop it inside. In such situations, I usually say to myself, I am here, I am with me. Maybe it's silly, but it always helps. And in tune with all this, another person says, how can I distance, in an emotional viewpoint, myself from disrespectful people? How to stay grounded and positive in this world while being surrounded by toxic people? My advice is exactly the same. Distance yourself. Disrespectful attitudes can be met anywhere, in your apartment, in your family, on a bus, in the shop, everywhere on the internet. And if you choose to react to all those attitudes, you will fade away in a split second. The way out is to distance yourself. Remind yourself that you are you and them are them. Also, it's not a bad thing not to stand the disrespect, but just walk away, turn around, stop talking to a person. And when I learned myself finally that in some situations I can throw away my politeness, my kindness, and just speak up for myself, my life has changed. To stay positive and optimistic in this world, you have to remind yourself that you are stronger than you might think, that you cannot let other random people or not that random people gain control over your feelings. You have to own yourself, otherwise other people will own you. My story is that I find myself in changing and challenging times. I'm 22, about to turn 23, socialized as a woman and feeling very disillusioned at this turning point between adolescence and adulthood, and the world independent from that. The most challenging issue I'm facing is that I cannot seem to find a balance between confronting myself emotionally about what's happening in the world, having empathy, trying to share my energy in a way that helps, and protecting my own well-being, joy, and ease. I lost a lot of ease in my life, and I wouldn't say that I regret it, having learned so much horrible but true stuff about the world. I refuse to accept that the only way forward is to ignore and avoid. I'm actively doing something about the things that weigh down on me, and it helps more than anything else. Still, I struggle. What am I allowed to take? How far should I go with selfish, or rather self-preserving behavior? Some people do not even ask themselves these questions. At least that is what I observe. I don't want to moralize people's behavior, everything has its own reason, but I also don't ever want to assimilate. What are your thoughts, if you have any you want to share? Are these thoughts and way of thinking constructive at all? You are a kind and beautiful human being, and I can see how you feel, and I can relate to a lot of what you're saying. And the first thing that I want to tell you is that any current way of thinking or acting is constructive for you at the moment. You just have to check in with yourself regularly to see whether you are following your own ideas, whether you act based on your own values and purpose, and you are not following anyone else just for the following sake. I've experienced life in quite a few ways. I've been to some extremes, and what I've learned, the most important thing, is that life has a wonderful sense of humor, and it loves turning things upside down every time when you think that you've finally figured everything out. As a highly sensitive person, I've almost destroyed my psyche when I tried to learn everything that I could about all the unfairness and sufferings and atrocities happening in the world, because I was told that I have to be reminded of these every minute of my existence, because otherwise I was a selfish hypocrite. It took me years to gather myself together again, to restore, but then I got destroyed one more time. The thing is that people like us have to learn how to revive ourselves, to raise ourselves from ashes, because if you are highly sensitive, if you are honest, sometimes brutally honest, if you have a very strong moral and ethical stance, you will be hurt over and over again. And it's the harsh truth that, and I don't know otherwise, I just don't know what is the way out of this. Do what you can do at the moment, but also make sure to take good care of yourself. You cannot stop all bad things from happening in the world. You can influence only your immediate surroundings, only be it in the offline space or online space. You can do what you can. You can do what your resources allow. I don't know, physical resources, mental or financial. Little things make big things happen after all. I've discovered that there is such a thing as inner capacity. When you give space to challenging emotions and thoughts and experiences, you get the equal capacity for everything that is joyful, enriching, and comforting. The key word here is giving place and not seeking constantly. I'm not gonna lie. There are still days when I feel like I cannot deal with this world. Days when the whole act of living in it hurts. When I was, say, 15, I thought that when I grow up and when I'm, 30, things will get better, that this feeling will be gone. But now I'm 42 and things haven't gotten better. I just had to learn to live with this and remind myself all the time that I cannot take in more than my current inner capacity allows. In a letter to his brother Theo, Vincent van Gogh wrote, "The sadness will last forever." And this might be true, but as a counterweight to this statement, there is another favorite quote of mine. "In the midst of winter, I found there was within me an invincible summer, and that makes me happy, for it says that no matter how hard the world pushes against me, within me there is something stronger, something better, pushing right back." I studied biology when arts was denied to me as a choice my family would support. I found a job and have dedicated myself to be the best I can in this career path, and although I have been lucky in the sense that I have had a stable job for over 10 years now, I'm 33, I feel stuck, and the circumstances of my job and experiences I have had in the place I work with are messing up with my mental and physical well-being. More often than not, I found myself struggling to get up, ready, and out in the morning. I dream of scenarios that force me to quit and creative endeavors that I could take part in if I had any extra energy at the end of the day. I don't know if it's worth it to say, and I feel guilty thinking I should be grateful to have a job when others are struggling to get one. And I also feel selfish with my thoughts and with my pain. Risk-taking seems unnecessary and urgent at the same time. I have become impulsive and bad-tempered from the amount of stress I feel. I fight it, but it gets tough. We often tie ourselves to our professions, or at least I have. I am Anna, I'm a biologist, is often how I introduce myself. It's such a big part of my life to be dedicated to something for so long, but which you no longer find joy in. And feeling that other parts of yourself, most true to you, are not being nurtured while life feels like slipping away. Have you felt this way? Am I being too demanding of life, or should I take the risk of getting what I want from it? I can't help but worry about the future and responsibilities. I would like to know your thoughts on this. This story and question encompass a lot, and I bet are very relatable to many viewers, and they are relatable to me. I can understand you both as someone whose career path was heavily influenced by family's opinion, and also as someone who finds solace and inspiration in creative endeavors. So the advice that I want to give you and everyone else who isn't in a similar situation, and also the advice that I would give to myself back then, is not to quit your job just yet. Of course, the idea sounds very sexy, just quitting your day job at once and pursuing your creative dream. I even see a lot of videos here on YouTube about this topic. But the thing is that reality can be drastically different from your expectations. Use your job and try not to let the job use you. What I found quite helpful when I was in a similar situation to yours was to imagine that I was leasing myself out for the working hours to get money and stability in exchange. Money and stability that made it possible for me to learn new things, to experiment, to try new hobbies without the stress of trying to learn a living through these new hobbies and projects and something. Of course, each person's situation is different, and I believe that success stories do exist, and I've witnessed them myself. But in the world where we are living in, risky choices might not always work. You said that you don't have enough extra energy after your work, and of course it sucks, and it would be such a game changer if you could spare just a little bit of time every day or several days a week just to indulge yourself into something that you love or you think you will love. It could be just 20 minutes before going to bed, and it's the risk that is worth taking, and the risk that is actually not risky at all. When I worked as an analyst translator, I began making collages for the first time using trash magazines that my company's archives tossed away, and those were my first steps in art. When I worked as a marketing specialist and a copywriter, I started writing my first blog and gained courage for putting my thoughts and words and ideas out there on the internet. I tried to use every chance to use my job to build something for the future. Creative work or just working for yourself gives a lot of freedom, but it also brings enormous stress. So much stress that at the end of the day, you feel like a husk in the wind. So my main advice is take the risk of trying to allocate enough time for your passions outside your work without quitting your job yet. Just take this risk and give it time. and give yourself at least 6 months or so and then reassess everything. I'm speaking from my own experience and I give advice from my own experience, and that's why you can listen to me or not listen to me. It's your life and you decide, and I do sincerely hope that you'll make the most of your chances, of your situations, to be happy and fulfilled. Greetings from Mexico. I'm an English teacher working in a private middle school. My job is extremely stressful, the students have no boundaries, and on top of that, my co-workers and superiors are rude and disrespectful. To sum it up, I work in a very toxic environment. Almost every month we have a new teacher because the job is unbearable. Unfortunately, due to financial reasons, I cannot quit just yet and need to wait until summer, specifically until August. Sometimes I just want to ignore my boss and co-workers because I know they don't deserve my energy and time. Other days I'm so full of anger from all the injustice I see that I want to respond. Otherwise, I feel like my chest will explode. My questions are: where do you draw the line between setting boundaries and not letting anyone disrespect you, while at the same time letting go and protecting your energy? And what would you do in my case as a fellow ex-English teacher? I had at least 2 similar experiences, and my advice to you is stand up for yourself, speak up for yourself in case it's more or less safe for you. When you quit, most likely you will regret not doing so. I have at least 2 former bosses who I regret not telling what pieces of disrespectful crap they were. I was so timid and I was so afraid to lose a job and I didn't want any conflict at all. But in the end, guess what? I quit, or I was fired, and with quite a bit of a conflict anyways, and I think I would feel better if I took the decision to stand up for myself and tell everyone what I thought about them. Again, I don't know the exact situation, and if you feel that it's more or less safe, say something back. Speak up for yourself. If it's not safe, then just as I already said before, distance yourself internally, and also try to think of a plan B. What you would do if you had to quit, even if you are not planning to quit sooner, or even if you plan to stay even after this August. For me, it always works to have a plan B in case a situation goes bad unexpectedly and abruptly, and thinking of this plan B gives me a lot of mental comfort because I kind of persuade myself that I will survive no matter what. And as for toxic colleagues at school, I had a bunch of them, trust me, and with them I had to choose either of the 2 tactics that work for dealing with any sort of bullies. The first is just ignoring them, not reacting, not noticing what they say, what remarks they make, and so on. And the second tactic is to show your strength, again, to say something back. And from my own experience of life, in different situations and at different ages, my personal ages, like being a teenager, a young adult, young woman, now a mature woman, I found out that only these types of tactics work with bullies. And I think bullies are met not only in high school, but everywhere, actually. I hope that your situation will resolve in the best way possible for you, and you will gain some well-deserved peace, comfort, and success. I'm soon to be 55 and I feel like I'm brand new to the world. I've been sober for 5 years. A few very close friends have passed away. Most of my other friends have disappeared because I chose not to drink. It's lonely, but also freeing. It makes more room for art. Sometimes my loneliness affects my creative flow. Any suggestions on how to show up for creativity? First, congratulations on your sobriety. And pursuing art is such a wonderful intention. And if you feel lonely, I would recommend trying to find classes, art classes, if it's possible for you to find offline. And if not, there are plenty of variants online. Sometimes those classes are not just classes, more like art sessions or art clubs. And that sort of activity will keep you accountable, and you will also socialize and remove the stress of sharing your art with others. If for now you feel like you are not ready to attend such meetings yet, I recommend searching and finding some authors here on YouTube or on other social media platforms who share their art journeys. I personally find such channels very inspiring and very soothing. They keep me company during my own art sessions. And you can even go to YouTube and type in studio vlogs or art vlogs or a painting session or drawing sessions, and then choose an author who you like the most and who you would like to keep your company. Another working tip to show up for creativity is weaving it into your daily routines. For example, get a habit of sketching or doing some sort of a artsy creative stuff in the morning while you have your morning tea or coffee. Having such habits will release the stress and kind of invite you to enjoy the process. But the most important thing here is not to have any high expectations. Just enjoy the process and don't be too demanding or harsh to yourself. My name is Eve. I live in Paris. I'm 56. I'm trying to relaunch my career and I cannot find my spot on social media, which I find exhausting. And I love the way you do it on YouTube. How to be on social media in a soft manner, if that makes sense. Social media is exhausting indeed, and the most important thing if you are planning to start your new social media journey is to choose the right platform. For me, from my own perspective, to make this experience as gentle and soft as possible, there are only two platforms that exist right now. First is YouTube, but it's a more difficult route which requires a lot of inner and outer work, and there are plenty of, again, videos out here that you can learn from. And the second platform is Substack. I am on Substack and I'm present there only as a reader, but maybe in the future I will launch something, some publication there as a writer. Who knows? But if you have a story to tell, if you want to connect with people in a soft and, I don't know, soft and gentle. There are no other words to describe it. So if you want to connect with people in such a way, I highly recommend trying Substack out. It's much easier than going on YouTube first and foremost. You can always change. It doesn't have to be one decision that will last forever. You can change your mind. But either way, don't put any unrealistic expectations, just experiment and don't draw any conclusions until you spend at least, 4 months or even up to a year on a platform. And only then make a decision whether you want to continue or change some things up. And in terms of what to choose as your own style, representation, I would recommend looking at 2, 3, or 4 authors, creators that you like and that you resonate with, and the examples of which you find more or less achievable for you, and then just making your own thing out of that compilation. And it's not stealing, it's just getting inspired and dressing the idea in your own style. There's nothing wrong with it. The last story and question that I want to mention here today in this video has given me some curious food for thought. It's a very delicate and interesting situation. I'm a writer/visual artist, and for the last 5 years I've had a writing partner who is also a close personal friend. She has a degree in writing, but I've learned by doing, and lately feel more confident in giving constructive criticism. She has given me her novel, which she worked on for 4 years, so I can edit it. I have found some major problems with it, both structurally and thematically, which I didn't recognize earlier because of my inexperience. I'm afraid that my friend will be devastated by the feedback. How do you critique the work of creative friends without damaging their confidence and possibly the friendship? Well, first, unfortunately, I don't think that there is a good way to critique your friend's work. It's just there are no sustainable variants, at least from my perspective. I made this mistake before, and although my critique was solicited, it caused quite a lot of awkwardness, offense, and troubles that I didn't seek. Most likely, your friend will be offended by your critique, however gentle you would try to word it. It's almost inevitable. Of course, it's not 100% probability, but I don't know. So my main advice to you would be to politely and delicately remove this editing responsibility from yourself. You can tell your friend that you really appreciate her trust in you as an editor, but maybe it would be more constructive to seek advice from someone else. And you might even say that maybe a professional and more experienced editor would be better. Again, to say this to make her feel better. I wish I could recommend something else, something less questionable, but unfortunately, again, as I had very similar experience to yours, I cannot think of anything else. And maybe just try to imagine that you and your friend switched roles, and how would you feel if she critiqued your work, and if you were in her situation, having an education, having a degree, working on the novel for so many years. So just think of it and make your own decision. And I hope that your friendship will be saved and that you will make the best decision in this particular situation. One important thing that I needed and wanted to mention here is that I got a few stories that were very sad, very challenging, and I just simply couldn't include them in the video because I don't have any expertise, any right to advise anything on those life challenges. I genuinely hope that people who sent me those stories, who shared them, will seek medical advice or social service support. And I want to remind to everyone once again that in especially hard, challenging situations, professional help is very important. This is it for today. I hope that you enjoyed this chatty video, and thank you for staying with me until the very end. I hope you didn't mind that I had some camera problems apparently on this video, and I had some neighbor sounds situation, but it is what it is. So, if you decide to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments that I always welcome, please remember to be respectful and kind. My last two videos were promoted by YouTube to some quite unusual audiences, and hence I had to introduce much stricter moderation of comments. And there were some weird strangers coming to the channel, to the comment section, and saying crazy things about women in general and me in particular. So right now, I hope that the flow of those strangers has finally exhausted and we will no longer face that avalanche of toxic and unsolicited opinions. As always, huge thanks to everyone who supports my work on Patreon and other tipping platforms, because it's only thanks to you that this channel exists. And for now, be safe and keep your heart open, and I will see you soon. Пока-пока!